viewers, welcome to ChannelNet. Today we're going to do an extension on resourcefulness. If you have not watched our episode 18 on how to train your child to be resourceful, then please watch it first before you go on to watch this episode, because you need to know the domains carefully before you can understand how resourcefulness works for children. And to help you to understand how to train your child to be resourceful, we have invited correspondent Yuki and our little guest DS to show you how parents can actually train your child to be resourceful. Before we talk about 2 pointers, how children may not be resourceful.
Hello everyone, I am little guest DS. I am also called DS, but my surname is Ho, so I am little S Ho. I am 9 years old.
You look like 9 years old, Mel.
Oh, I got 套老 face, that's what my mommy says. Why am I here today? I'm asking question and answering myself. Okay, why am I here today? Because I am here to share with all the daddy and mommy watching this video how my daddy and mommy teach me resourcefulness. So they always try to expose me to the 5 components of resourcefulness in DS video 18, and then what happens is they always get me to think. So Tete, can you ask me a question to test me on my resourcefulness?
Okay, so now I ask you, if you're at home and you make a mistake with your paper, what are you supposed to do?
Oh, I will need to get correction tape.
But if you have no correction tape?
If my pencil case, the correction tape used finished already, I can ask my domestic helper to get some.
But then your domestic helper say no more.
Then I can go to the bookshop to buy.
But now what time already? 8 p.m. already, no? How to go bookshop?
Oh yeah, by the time 8 p.m. go to the bookshop, 9 p.m. bookshop closed already. Then I can use white paint and paint over the mistake.
Are you sure there's no simpler method?
I can also cancel and write over the mistake, right? But my teacher very inflexible. She say don't want to see such things. Okay lah, resourceful, right? Back to DS.
There are 2 circumstances in which training your child to be resourceful is not going to be very effective. The first is when you only focus on one of the domain, especially at home when you have a domestic helper. Your child may always be asking the domestic helper for help, and this will not help your child to be resourceful because he or she is only focusing on one domain. So you must always remember as a parent to involve as many domains as possible to train your child to be resourceful. Don't worry, sooner or later, after enough exposure, your child will be able to think for himself. So remember, important thing is get your child to think. So situation number 2, another occasion in which your child is not able to learn resourcefulness effectively is when he or she is not yet able to master the concept of conservation. Now, what is conservation? So according to developmental psychologist John Piaget, children between the age of 2 to 7 may be in the pre-operational stage, so they might not have been able to understand resourcefulness, because understanding resourcefulness requires a person to see the relationship between different things and can process 2 or more domains at the same time. So one example to illustrate this inability to understand conservation would be, if you ever have gone to a shopping center, sometimes you would see a boy or a girl just running straight into your lap, when they are actually intending to go somewhere to buy an ice cream, to buy a toy. Now, why does that happen? That's because they are unable to focus on direction and goal at the same time. And this is normal for children between the 2 to 7, according to developmental psychologist John Piaget. So 2 years old to 7 years old is a very long time for conservation to be learned or mastered by a child. So has your child actually mastered the concept of conservation? So what we're going to do is we're going to invite Yuki to help us in some demonstration, some simple tricks you can actually use at home to see if your child has already mastered conservation. So let's go straight into that. Today we have Yuki demonstrating for us how to check if your child has mastered conservation. So one of the first things that we can do is to get a set of pencils. In our case, we have a set of markers. You need to line your pencils together such that they are all of the same length and the same position. Ask your child, do all the pencils or pens, in this case, do all the markers have the same length?
Yes.
Your child will tell you yes. So next, what you need to do is to randomly push out one or two of these markers out of place. Then you ask, are these markers of the same length? If your child has mastered conservation, he will tell you that the markers are still of the same length. However, if your child has not mastered conservation, he will tell you that the red marker over here is longer because it's protruding out. Now, another way to test for conservation in your child is to use this setup. So prepare two glasses which are identical, fill them up with the same amount of water, then ask your child, do the two containers have the same amount of water? Your child should say yes. Now, take one of the containers and pour the water into another glass of a different shape. Then ask your child, do the two containers have the same amount of water? If your child tells you that, hey, no, this one or this one has more water, it shows that your child has not mastered conservation yet. Now what this means is that when your child is not able to master conservation, it is basically because his cognitive abilities have not developed in such a way that he can process two dimensions at the same time. So he's only able to focus on only one dimension. So what this means is that your child is able only to see the waters in terms of the shape and unable to process volume. So similarly, the child that bangs onto the passerby in the shopping center is only able to focus on goal, which is to get an ice cream, but unable to filter away obstacles. So a child that has not mastered conservation is only able to see one thing at a time. So that's why training your child to be resourceful at this time may be a bit challenging, but keep exposing your child to resources and he should be able to master conservation in no time. And if your child has not mastered conservation yet, don't worry, they will surely master conservation as they become older. Just be patient. Meanwhile, continue to expose your child to different resources so that they will surely become more resourceful as a result. Regardless of whether you are a parent, to-be parent, or a psychology student, we hope you have learned something in this episode and in every other episode. Do help us to grow. Do subscribe to us if you have not subscribed. We hope you have really enjoyed this episode and we'll see you again in our next episode then. Bye bye!